Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story takes us into one of the most intense encounters ever recorded between the United States Navy and North Korea's Air Force, an incident that stunned military analysts worldwide. It's a story about a North Korean fighter jet that dared to challenge the U.S., only to vanish from the radar in just 8 seconds. What happened next would become one of the most talked about mysteries in modern military aviation. From the skies above the Pacific to the war rooms deep beneath naval command centers, the ripple effects of that brief but shocking moment are still being analyzed today. The tension had been building for weeks before the confrontation. U.S. naval intelligence had detected increased activity along the North Korean coastline. Surveillance satellites showed unfamiliar fighter jets rolling out of hardened bunkers, and radar signals hinted that North Korea might be testing new electronic countermeasures. The U.S. Navy, operating a carrier strike group in international waters, remained on high alert. These weren't ordinary patrols, they were precision operations designed to demonstrate presence without provocation. Yet, the line between showing strength and triggering a response is razor thin, especially when you're dealing with a regime that thrives on defiance. Inside the command center of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, officers monitored radar screens filled with data points, signals, echoes, and occasional blips from civilian aircraft. Everything seemed routine until one faint dot appeared on the edge of the radar sweep, flying unusually fast and low. The system's AI flagged it as an unidentified aircraft heading straight toward the carrier group. Within seconds, F/A-18 Super Hornets were scrambled, roaring off the deck in a flash of steam and thunder. The pilots were briefed mid-flight. Unidentified hostile approaching, possible North Korean origin, weapon status unknown. The tone in their voices turned razor-sharp calm, professional, but heavy with tension. From the exterior, the sight was cinematic. The Pacific sun glared off the water, painting silver streaks across the waves as two U.S. Navy fighters streaked into the sky. The North Korean jet, believed to be a MiG-29 variant, was flying dangerously close to international boundaries, making tight maneuvers as though testing the Americans' response time. The Super Hornets closed in, locking their sensors, transmitting warnings and maintaining a tight formation to box in the intruder. But this wasn't just a random flight. The North Korean jet's behavior suggested deliberate provocation. Its radar was active, its jammer switched on, and its electronic signature hinted at something new, something not previously seen by U.S. systems. Inside the North Korean cockpit, the pilot must have been under enormous pressure. Every move was likely monitored by his commanders. He was flying not just for himself, but as a message, a dare to the most powerful navy in the world. As he approached the U.S. fighters, he suddenly climbed sharply, performing an aggressive maneuver that violated engagement protocols. The American pilots held their nerve. They issued 3 warnings, their comms echoing through the tactical network. Then something inexplicable happened. The North Korean jet's radar return flickered, then vanished. No explosion, no distress signal, no debris. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone. Inside the USS Roosevelt's Combat Information Center, alarms briefly flared, but there was nothing to track. Commanders replayed the radar data in disbelief. The system confirmed the aircraft's existence, trajectory, and speed, and then it simply ceased. There was no missile fired, no intercept, no signal of ejection. Within 8 seconds, the contact disappeared as though it had never existed. Naval intelligence officers immediately began coordinating with satellites and nearby ships, trying to find any trace fuel residue, heat signature, or splash pattern. Nothing. The sea below remained calm, undisturbed. It was as if the jet had been swallowed by the air itself. The official explanation at first was that it might have been a radar malfunction, but the pilots in the air swore they had visual confirmation. They saw the North Korean jet, they tracked its movements, and then it simply blinked out. No explosion, no parts, nothing. The U.S. Navy classified the incident and restricted all footage. Days later, whispers emerged across defense circles that the disappearance wasn't a malfunction, it might have been the result of advanced electronic warfare. Some speculated that the North Korean jet was testing a stealth jamming system powerful enough to fool radar, but it backfired, frying its own circuits. Others believed it was hit by an experimental U.S. directed energy weapon designed to disable aircraft systems without leaving a visible trace. The interior of the aircraft carrier's control deck was tense and quiet after the incident. Engineers combed through radar logs while communications officers cross-checked satellite data. The ship's captain held a briefing behind closed doors, demanding full operational transparency. No weapon was fired. The pilots confirmed again, the target just vanished. Intelligence officers from the Pentagon joined the investigation remotely. The data was sent through encrypted channels to defense analysis teams across the Pacific Command. Every system showed the same pattern: a solid radar contact, a sudden electromagnetic spike, and then absolute silence. Performance analysis of the encounter raised even more questions. The North Korean jet had been flying at Mach 1.2, maintaining a stable radar signature, which meant its disappearance couldn't have been caused by turbulence or mechanical failure alone. Advanced radar specialists later pointed to the 1.8-second time frame too brief for an explosion, too sudden for engine stall. Some theorized it might have entered a steep dive and hit the water, but again, the lack of debris made that explanation unlikely. If it did crash, it left behind no oil slick, no floating parts, nothing visible on sonar. Whatever happened, it was instantaneous and total. Meanwhile, in Pyongyang, North Korean state media was unusually silent. No announcement, no mention of a lost aircraft or pilot. That silence itself was telling. Normally, the regime glorifies such confrontations, even failures, as acts of defiance, but this time, nothing. Behind the scenes, U.S. intelligence analysts speculated that North Korea was scrambling to understand what went wrong. If it truly was testing an advanced radar jamming prototype, the system may have overloaded and caused a catastrophic failure. But there was another, darker theory circulating in defense communities that the U.S. Navy had successfully tested an ultra-high-frequency directed energy system capable of neutralizing an aircraft midair without a missile launch. If that theory were true, it would mark a major leap in U.S. military technology. Such a weapon could explain why there was no explosion and no wreckage. It would also explain the Navy's silence and the rapid classification of the incident. Officially, the event was logged as unresolved radar anomaly, but those who were present knew better. The pilots' debriefing tapes, according to insiders, revealed how one of them said, "It was there, then it was gone, like it never existed." The shock in his voice told a story no file could capture. The safety implications were profound. For both militaries, it was a reminder of how unpredictable high-tech warfare had become. If electronic warfare or directed energy could neutralize targets silently, traditional rules of engagement would need rewriting. The U.S. Navy began reinforcing protocols for identifying unknown radar contacts, increasing the use of electronic countermeasures on patrol routes near adversarial zones. On the other side, North Korea quietly shifted its air patrol patterns, avoiding direct approach vectors to U.S. ships for months after the event. What made the case so extraordinary was not just the disappearance itself, but how quickly it was erased from official narratives. Within days, digital records of the event on open radar networks were scrubbed. Independent tracking data vanished from public feeds. Even civilian maritime radars that had picked up anomalies in that sector reported maintenance blackouts. It was as if someone wanted the event to fade into the mist. Yet, among naval veterans and aviation experts, it became legend, a whispered reminder of how fragile the line between technology and mystery truly is. Some experts compared it to similar disappearance events reported over the years: aircraft that suddenly lost contact near advanced radar installations or experimental test zones. But never had one occurred so publicly in international airspace, right before the world's most sophisticated naval fleet. That's what made this event different. It wasn't just a technological mystery, it was a political message. Whether intentional or accidental, it showcased a level of warfare capability far beyond what most nations publicly acknowledge. In terms of strategic implications, the incident also served a deterrent purpose. For North Korea, the disappearance of one of its fighters was a sobering reminder of the risk of challenging the U.S. Navy's technological dominance. For the U.S., it was an opportunity to test, conceal, and perhaps demonstrate the limits of new defense systems without openly declaring them. Intelligence analysts across Asia noted a subtle shift in North Korean air operations after the event: fewer long-range patrols, less electronic interference, and a return to conservative tactics. It seemed that the message had been received loud and clear. As days turned into weeks, conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed the pilot had defected and was secretly taken by U.S. forces. Others argued that the radar data was falsified to hide a covert operation. Yet, none of these theories could explain the single, undeniable fact. A jet had entered international airspace, was tracked by multiple systems, and then disappeared without a trace in under 2 seconds. Military experts concluded that such precision could only be achieved by something intentional: an external force or system, powerful enough to disrupt every electronic and mechanical function simultaneously. By the time official investigations closed, no conclusive report was made public. The Navy's final statement called it a brief radar anomaly consistent with atmospheric interference. But among those who knew the truth, that phrase became almost ironic. The pilots who saw it, the technicians who analyzed the data, and the officers who witnessed the radar drop all agreed atmospheric interference doesn't make a plane vanish that fast. It was something else. Something beyond known physics or conventional technology. The story faded from headlines, buried under diplomatic noise and routine military updates. But within classified military training programs, the event was still studied not as a mystery, but as a case study in the unpredictability of modern warfare. New pilots were shown the radar data as a cautionary example of how fast a situation can escalate and disappear. And in defense technology circles, whispers of Project Halo, a rumored, directed energy system, began circulating again, each new rumor more elaborate than the last. For the families of those who served that day, it became just another classified memory, another moment erased by the silence of military secrecy. Yet the image of that jet flying defiant, vanishing into thin air, remained burned into the minds of those who saw it. Whether it was a technological accident, an act of divine coincidence, or a glimpse into the next generation of warfare, no one could say for sure. But one thing was certain: from that day on, every encounter near U.S. naval airspace carried a deeper weight, a silent understanding that what you can't see might still be watching you. The unique selling point of this entire mystery lies in its blend of power and invisibility. The U.S. Navy has long been known for its unmatched technological sophistication. But this incident showed that the next era of combat might not be fought with missiles and dogfights. It could be fought in the invisible spectrum, where electromagnetic energy, stealth, and data determine victory. The idea that a fighter jet could disappear in 1.8 seconds without a trace is more than a mystery. It's a symbol of how far the boundaries of modern defense have been pushed. As for the cost of such technology, estimates suggest that the systems possibly involved, if real, could run into billions of dollars. The price of invisibility, of silence in combat, is higher than ever. Yet for a military that prioritizes dominance across every domain, sea, air, space, and now electromagnetic, that cost is seen as necessary. North Korea's challenge, though brief, served as a live demonstration of why those investments matter. In the end, the vanishing of that North Korean fighter became more than just a military encounter. It became a lesson in humility for both sides. Power without understanding is dangerous. Technology without control is unpredictable. And sometimes, the most powerful statement in warfare isn't a missile strike or an explosion, it's silence. A silence so complete it erases even the memory of what stood before it. So as we look back on that day, the question remains: what really happened to the North Korean fighter that dared to challenge the United States? Was it the victim of its own ambition, or proof that we've entered a new era of invisible warfare? The truth may never be revealed, but the legend of the jet that vanished in 1.8 seconds continues to echo across the ocean, a reminder that in the skies above, every move counts, and sometimes, the greatest weapon is the one that leaves no trace at all.